Jules, we've heard time and time again, for Juventus, it's all about the Champions League. That was what the Cristiano Ronaldo project was all about. By definition, it's been a huge failure, hasn't it?
Huge failure, Dan, for the last 3 seasons, losing to Ajax in the quarterfinals, first of all, then to Lyon last season, which was bad already, and then to this Porto side that is not even really good in Portugal. Domestically, they're second way behind Sporting, sometimes third when Braga overtake them. This is a huge disappointment for Pirlo, for the club, for Cristiano Ronaldo as well. And in those 3 eliminations, by the way, second leg was always at home, so you could even say that was an advantage. And again, they always failed against teams that were not part of the big 4 leagues in Europe. Huge failure, and I guess people now have to take responsibility, whether that's Ronaldo, Pirlo, Nedved, Andrea Agnelli, Paratici, I don't care who it is, but surely more people have to take responsibilities.
Who should take the most responsibility out of all of this, Robbo? You've seen a lot of Juventus.
Well, I think Andrea Pirlo's come in, and I don't think he's done a particularly good job. I think he knows what he wants in terms of his style of play and his patterns of play, but he keeps changing the team, and I thought he made some bad decisions today. Demiral is always going to give away a penalty. He's always going to get himself sent off. He's always going to get booked. He's got De Ligt that he could have played, and I thought De Ligt and Bonucci would have been a much better partnership. When I saw the midfield, I know he hasn't got Bentancur ready to come and play, but the midfield was too slow, and he could have made different decisions about that. And Ramsey to play Ramsey rather than McKennie, I thought was a bad decision as well, because McKennie, when he played against Barcelona and when he makes those forward runs, is more dynamic than Ramsey. So Andrea Pirlo, I know he hasn't got experience, but he has to take some of the blame for this.
Overall, obviously, Craig, focus has always been on Cristiano Ronaldo. Where do we stand on him and him becoming a hindrance to this side as opposed to a help?
I mean, apart from his lack of bravery, along with others in the wall, I think it's hard to criticise, because a bit like Lionel Messi, as every year goes past, these guys who have been superstars for 10 or 12 years need a better supporting cast, because it becomes more difficult for them. As every month and every week and every year goes, Mother Nature, and I've talked about this before, Mother Nature catches up with you. So you cannot expect a guy to keep doing what he was doing, 4 or 5 years ago. And so therefore, you need to build things around him, and you need to build for the future. And Juventus, they brought in some players. I mean, Chiesa's been a good young player for them, and he looks really lively. And Dybala didn't play. Morata's come in. He's done okay after his career been stumbling. But really and truly, Ronaldo isn't the player that's going to do it all on his own anymore. And maybe in some sense, that's waning for Lionel Messi as well. So they need a better supporting cast, and I'm afraid Juventus are just not giving them that. And at the moment, his career is looking as if it's just starting to peter out slowly.
Yeah, what happens next, Ali? Juventus aren't going to win the title in Italy. It looks like Champions League obviously out now. Coppa Italia, but that's not what Ronaldo wants.
No, and that's not why you bring him in. Hey, we got Coppa Italia. That's not exactly what you're aspiring to be if you're Juventus. I think what you have to look at is, has there been an evolution of this team? Have they taken steps forward? And the answer is categorically no. They've taken steps back. And I don't care if people want to frame this in some sort of transition year. Transition to what? To being worse? No, not in Juventus standard. Juventus is the sort of team that you don't go back to go forward. You keep going forward, and because you're the sort of club that has built that sort of history. And so the expectations are that high because you have Ronaldo on the field. But when you have a team that today settle on saying, you know what, okay, so the balls are coming in, we're going to cross them in, and somebody's going to get on the end of it, and Pep is just sitting there clearing ball after ball after ball, and you're not able to figure out, it's not just floating a ball in. It's, as Robo just said, you know what, we got to whip him in, because we got to move Pepe around. We got to move the center backs around. We got to make runs in behind. But Ronaldo's not going to make that run in behind anymore. He doesn't quite have that in his game, and so it's got to come from somewhere else. And if it's not Chiesa, you look around, you're saying, I don't think so. Yeah. So yeah, to Craig's point, the supporting cast is not quite there. But yet again, that cannot be an excuse for this Juventus team to not be able to advance past this Porto team. They should have been better. Even if this is a transition year, they should have been better than Porto, and they were not.
Jules, if
this is another classic case of a former player getting. And listen, I'm sure he's going to get smashed along with everybody else in the Italian press. But in my opinion, it's another case of a former legend at a club, and we're seeing it more and more now. getting way more leeway than others. Had this been Maurizio Sarri or had this been Max Allegri, not just the results but the performances, they would have been dragging them through the streets of Turin. So here we have another scenario of a former player sort of getting a little bit more wiggle room than others, and we'll see where that takes them. But at the moment, it's not taking them in the right direction. Whether they're saying this is a transition year or not, that's just all gobbledygook.
Well, this is it. Del Piero was on the show on Saturday, Jules, and he said, look, there's nothing, you can't say transition year for Juventus. It's not an excuse for a team that's used to winning so much. So if the start of this season, I was saying we'd be sat here in March, Juve would be out of the title race pretty much and knocked out the Champions League by Porto in the round of 16, then there'd be no question. Pirlo would be gone. Why is he still there?
I think he's still there for two reasons. One, the biggest one is that there's no one really available. Well, you're going to go and get Max Allegri back, or you go on to go Maurizio Sarri back. That's not going to happen. Who else is available? Valverde, or people like that. This is not good enough for Juventus anyway. So I guess you keep him and you wait, and then in the summer you reassess the whole thing, and maybe by then you will have someone available. You can go and get, I don't know, Julian Nagelsmann if you want, or whoever you want. But right now, there's no one available for you to bring in, like a Pochettino or like a Thomas Tuchel, like Chelsea and PSG did, for example, halfway through their season. So you keep him for that. You keep him because maybe you believe that things can improve. I don't know how, because as the boys have been rightly saying, since the first day of the season, we haven't really seen anything from Pirlo. Sometimes a few good 20, 30 minutes by then, but then there's always go back to mediocrity, which was the case tonight. There was nothing in that game, and I'm not even sure that the plan of give the ball to Cuadrado is going to whip the ball in is a good plan anyway. There was nothing else in there, and I just think that you keep him because there's nothing better.
Morata had a chance from it as well, so that was the right plan all along. The more crosses they got into the box and the more they were whipped in behind, that's where all the chances came. They were never going to play their way through Porto because the way Porto was set up. So it had to go wide and get crosses into the box. That was the way they were going to win the game. But Ronaldo, we talk about Ronaldo, I don't know how many crosses they got in, it must have been 30, 40, and Ronaldo hardly got on the end of any of them. One just before the end of the 90 minutes when he headed past the post, and that was poor from Ronaldo. If Chiesa can get on the end of them, Morata can get on the end of them, Rabiot can score with a header, Ronaldo should have been there as well. And he took himself away from the danger area and took himself elsewhere. He keeps doing that in big games.
But how can it be the right plan if they lost? They got knocked out. It can't be the right plan, Robo. If it's the right plan, you win the game, you go through, and people say Pirlo got the game plan right. But you can't get the game plan right when they be knocked out by a Porto team that are third in the league.
To block the balls being played through them. Every time it went out to Cuadrado and he bent a ball in behind them, as I said, there was a chance made. Chiesa scored. Morata should have scored in the first minute. Rabiot scored from the other side. Ronaldo should have scored on 90 minutes when he heads it back across. That was the way they were going to break the opposition down, and they didn't do it well enough. That was the problem.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN+.